When you read the book of Acts, one of the most amazing things that happens in the book of Acts is the preaching that occurs. So Peter preaches after Pentecost, and then Paul preaches in the marketplace, and then Stephen preaches before he is killed. And all of them, when they are preaching to a Jewish audience, they are outlining what happens in the Old Testament that ultimately pointed them to Jesus. They understood that all of the Old Testament points to Jesus. Even the stuff we don't want to read, the genealogies which we can't stand because we don't know these people or know how to pronounce their names, these horrible stories of violence and death and sexuality that we don't want to touch, all of them point to Jesus and how badly we need a Savior. That is the purpose of the Old Testament. So what do we do with the Old Testament? That's what we started off asking. Well, I say we read it. But when we read it, here's what I want to encourage you to do. First, I want you to read it as history. These are events that have unfolded. A lot of it is a narrative history of God and his people. Read it like that. It's not a narrative that I'm part of. It's not a part of you either. It's a narrative of God and his people long ago and what people did or didn't do and how they listened or didn't listen. Read it like the story it is. It's history. Second thing I want you to do is I want you to read it as history that is descriptive and not prescriptive. A lot of the Old Testament is instruction, for sure. They have the laws and especially the prophets. Often in those two sections, actually just those two sections and maybe a little bit of wisdom, they're telling you what to do. Absolutely. But there's a big chunk of it that is a narrative that is unfolding, and it is not, and I repeat, it is not meant to be followed as a moral example. It is a descriptive story of God and his people when people listened and when people didn't listen. So it's not telling you you should have 700 wives like Solomon. In fact, it's not even telling you that God liked it. In fact, God did not like polygamy. He says it over and over again. But people still did it. So then what are the consequences of that? Read it as a descriptive story and not prescriptive. Read it to understand your New Testament. There are more than 800 direct references to the Old Testament and the New Testament, like I said. There are direct quotes from it. They don't always say, hey, I read this in Isaiah, this is what they say. But there are direct quotes, especially Paul's letters. He is often referring, when he's writing to a Jewish audience, to the law. So what is he referring to? Understand it, read it. And finally, I want you to read it with a lens for Jesus. Look for Jesus in the story. Look for either the need for a Savior in those awful things that happen. Look for the foretelling of a Savior in the prophets and even in other parts like the law. Look for Jesus. What is this telling you about Jesus? Because it's telling you something. He says to those people who follow law, he says, all of this is pointing to me. Don't you get it? It's up to us to get it. There's a purpose to the Old Testament, and that purpose is to point us to Jesus. So read your Old Testament.